Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Premier Jason Kenney blasted environmental activist David Suzuki over allegations of threats to Alberta pipelines. More rainfall is expected in BC as government officials scramble to help residents who've lost so much due to the recent floods. And the Christmas Kettle campaign is underway in southern Alberta as the Salvation Army officers are out in full force.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Premier Jason Kenney says he was not impressed with environmental activist David Suzuki, who says there's a potential of pipelines being blown up if the climate crisis isn't taken more seriously. Kenney called Suzuki an environmental hypocrite.
It's absolutely an implicit or winking incitement to violence. It's like in the gangster movies where they say, nice little pipeline you've got there, be a terrible thing if something happened to it. This is totally irresponsible on the part of David Suzuki. And let me point out a track record of outrageous comments from him that for anybody else would have had him canceled. Instead, he continues to receive multi-million-dollar contracts from the CBC. This is the same guy who called for his for a political opponent, Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister, to be thrown in jail. He said in February of 2016, quotes, "I really believe that people like the former Prime Minister of Canada should be thrown in jail," quote unquote, not for corruption, but because of a policy difference. When Donald Trump called for Hillary Clinton to be thrown in jail, he was rightly mocked, ridiculed, and vilified. But what's the CBC's response? To give him even more contracts to help sustain his 4 houses in which he lives as an environmental hypocrite.
Federal Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole took a shot at Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who did not denounce David Suzuki's comments on our pipelines.
A Liberal government that this week was shockingly silent when David Suzuki suggested that pipelines would be blown up if protesters or blockaders didn't get their way. What is happening in this country when the Prime Minister won't condemn language like that? What is happening in this country when we no longer value the hard work done by people to put food on the table for their kids or a roof over their heads? What is happening when the federal government is ignoring the division that their own policies are creating?
Environment Canada issued rainfall warnings for many parts of British Columbia still submerged by floodwaters. Areas of Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley should be prepared for up to 80 millimeters of rain by Friday morning. Forecasters say the storm is less intense than the one almost 2 weeks ago, but warn the rain could cause flash floods and water pooling on roads. Winds of 100 kilometers an hour pushed a cargo ship aground at a terminal Wednesday in the northern port city of Prince Rupert, but tugboats quickly were able to refloat it. BC's Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth says his province is preparing itself for more storms just as they're struggling to recover from the most recent floods.
These storms are coming at a time when we're already grappling with some of the most destructive weather we've ever seen. They are coming as crews work day and night to repair the extensive damage from last week. And while there is still significant flood damage in many places throughout the province, we are making progress on our recovery.
Indigenous communities and First Nations have been heavily impacted by recent flooding and landslides. The work to ensure First Nations can access available supports is happening across the government. EMBC, with the help from CN Rail, organized delivery of over 3,000 pounds of food to several impacted First Nations. We're also helping move health authority personnel and medications to outlying areas so that we can continue to support families and individuals who need assistance.
Conversations continue with the federal government. We are developing an agri-recovery program right now to support our producers. The details of that will be coming out in the coming days, where these conversations that we're having on the ground are really important so we capture all of the needs that are out there in the agriculture community. Farmers are really concerned right now about the removal of deceased animals. We do have a location in Abbotsford where people are taking calls. There's a number of people where people can call to have animals removed.
Meanwhile, on the East Coast, crews have begun repairing washed-out roads and damaged bridges in eastern Nova Scotia and southwestern Newfoundland after 3 days of a torrential downpour. The storm shut down almost 30 roads and bridges in Nova Scotia alone. Most of the damage is in Antigonish, Victoria, and Inverness counties. The Trans-Canada Highway remains closed in southwestern Newfoundland. That has forced Marine Atlantic to divert the ferry from Nova Scotia to eastern Newfoundland to ensure people and supplies can reach the province.
We understand the gravity of the situation, and we will repair the roads as quick and safely as possible. Helicopters are on standby to transport people as needed. We've been in touch with Marine Atlantic, and they're working with our emergency preparedness crew to ensure that there will be a return of safe operations. Currently, we're not worried about the supplies today, and there is a plan and contingency in place should things change. In the days leading up to this rain, our government was anticipating that there would be some damage. And just as people were encouraged to prepare their own homes, we prepared our own resources. For example, we had culverts on standby, contractors engaged and ready to go once it's safe. We're also engaged with our federal partners, and they're ready to help if needed. Our fire and emergency services team are also fully engaged, and we've been speaking with some of the mayors of the impacted municipalities frequently.
Now, as for our weather here in southwestern Alberta, the strong Chinook winds made their return, bringing much warmer temperatures. Jeanette Rocher is here with a quick look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, are the mild temps going to be lasting for a while?
Well, you know how they are. In fact, we could be seeing a record breaker coming up this weekend as we head into 16 degrees for Sunday and more teen temperatures coming up next week. Now, with those warmer temperatures, of course, comes the trade-off of Chinook winds, and we're going to be feeling those 90 kilometer per hour winds this evening, more 70K winds into tomorrow. Now, how that shapes up for the rest of the week, I will have those details coming up for you later on in the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeanette. A Lethbridge elementary school went into lockdown on Wednesday afternoon following reports of a man threatening people with a knife. Police say around 1:30 p.m. the male was using a knife in a threatening manner in the 1500 block of 4th Avenue North and then made his way to Westminster Elementary School. He was arrested just after 2 p.m. in the school playground. A knife was later recovered at his home nearby. 31-year-old Christopher David Smith of Lethbridge has been charged with assault with a weapon, possession of an offensive weapon dangerous to the public, and threats to cause death or bodily harm. Smith remains in custody and is awaiting his bail hearing. A fundraiser for the University of Lethbridge called the Shine Campaign has raised over $100 million. This enormous amount of money was given by donors who want to ensure the university continues on as one of the leading post-secondary schools in Alberta. As Micah Quinn explains now, the campaign only went public in 2018.
Over 11,000 people contributed to the Shine campaign, which engaged more than 20,000 U of L alumni.
Of that $103 million, the breakdown is about 50% of the funds are dedicated to different things supporting students, everything from scholarships to a new student mental health program, as an example. Another $34 million is more dedicated to academic programming, either to support new academic programming or ongoing academic programming. And then about $12 million, or 12%, is dedicated to supporting different research initiatives. And then the last 12% is more focused on community engagement.
The University of Lethbridge's Dillon School of Business, with the support of MNP, a professional accounting firm, and the CPA Education Foundation, introduced the Insight Series program. $100,000 was donated over a 4-year period.
There's 5 courses, so to speak, where students and local business leaders will attend and gain valuable insights into the changing world of CPA and business.
Carter Lewis is a first-year student at the U of L, taking a Bachelor of Management and Finance. He received a scholarship called the Clint Dunford Award, worth a total of $1,000.
To have any scholarship, whether it's $500, $800, or $25 grand, it's a big deal to ease any kind of burden and take a little bit of pressure off for that term or even the next couple of years.
6,500 of the donors for the Shine campaign were new to the U of L, and $14.5 million was raised for student awards. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
'Tis the season again for the Christmas Kettle campaign. The annual fundraiser has been running for well over 100 years, and the Salvation Army has championed the cause for many years. This year, you can donate by placing money into the kettle or by using an electronic tap option. The Salvation Army will have kettles located at 6 locations around Lethbridge, including Walmart, Park Place Mall, and Superstore. Donald Bladen, the Community Ministries Officer for the Salvation Army in Lethbridge, says the campaign is hoping to raise about $150,000 this year, with the donations going towards a great cause.
We do emergency food assistance twice weekly throughout the entire year. We do Christmas food hampers, Christmas toys, and other Christmas accessories in Lethbridge, as well as in Fort Macleod and in many of the surrounding communities as people would contact us with need. We do a food bank in Fort Macleod as well, all throughout the course of the year. And we do what's called a Pathway of Hope program, which is a brand new initiative that helps people out of poverty in the sense that we do a little bit of an intake, do a couple of assessments, help them set some goals, and then walk with them through that process.
The campaign will run until December 24th. You can visit the organization's website if you're interested in volunteering or donating. The new mayor of Lethbridge, Blaine Hagan, has been on the job for just over a month now. One of the campaign promises Mayor Hagan ran on during the last municipal election was to work towards putting more funding back into the Lethbridge Police Service to help fight crime. $1 million was taken out of the police budget last year. Mayor Hagan says he would like to see more boots on the ground to help fight crime here in our city.
You know, it's something that I brought forward right away to our strategic planning session as far as, making sure that we have adequate funds for the resources that we need in throughout our police service. And so it's something that we'll be hearing more of here in the not too distant future as we work through that. But definitely it's something that I heard on the campaign trail, and it's something that I definitely want to bring forward to give the adequate resources that we need to create a safe environment for all of us here in Lethbridge.
Mayor Hagan will also talk about his recent visit to Edmonton, where he met with a number of provincial ministers. That Q&A is coming up after business news. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says his government is looking for a 30% reduction in fertilizer use. Now, at the same time, he says he wants Canadian agriculture exports to increase by at least $85 billion by the year 2025. Joshua Daychief is the CEO of Advanced Ag in Raymond, Alberta, and he says that there is a better approach which will not impact the cost to growers and consumers while still helping to meet growing demand for Canadian agriculture products.
I believe some of it is uninformed. Do we overuse fertilizer in general? Yeah, probably. But to have farmers cut back, up to 30% overnight is a pretty tough thing to do. I do, however, believe it's where we're going to end up regardless, but it's going to take some time. The cost of fertilizer right now is insane. We have to find better ways to do things.
Daychief says a better solution would be to add grants and incentives for farmers, along with offering more education on soil health. Calgary police say a man and his 7-year-old daughter were killed in a multi-vehicle crash Wednesday night. The man's 11-year-old daughter was also injured. Police say a pickup truck was traveling northbound on McLeod Trail when it rear-ended the family's car and forced it into oncoming lane, where it was hit by another vehicle. They say the driver of the truck fled the scene on foot, but was later taken into custody. The Manitoba government is reviewing a preschool in Winnipeg after a woman found her 3-year-old son outside and alone in the cold. Tegan Butler says she was contacted the preschool last Friday to say she was running late, but when she arrived, she saw her son standing outside of the entrance alone, hugging a tree. She says her son was outside on his own for around 20 minutes. Butler says the preschool apologized and is promising to make changes, but she thinks more needs to be done to ensure the safety of our children. Saskatchewan has extended its public health order related to COVID-19 until the end of January. Premier Scott Moe says masks will remain mandatory for indoor public spaces, including schools. The province's vaccine passport system will also remain in place.
So as we head into our winter months and head into the Christmas season, we need to be vigilant and we need to be careful. And that's why today we are extending the current public health orders around masking and proof of vaccination and proof of negative test for 2 more months, until the end of January. So that would be until January the 31st. By then, we'll have a clear picture of what impact, if any, the Christmas season will have potentially on our COVID transmission rates here in the province, and we'll reevaluate where we are and our provincial situation towards the end of January.
Saskatchewan's medical regulator says physicians must tell patients if they are not fully vaccinated against COVID-19. That's a new mandate which came down from the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Saskatchewan. Officials say patients have a right to know their doctor's vaccination status. They say evidence shows those who are unvaccinated have a greater chance of transmitting the virus compared to those who are fully vaccinated. Today, our American neighbors are celebrating Thanksgiving. U.S. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden offered their Thanksgiving greeting with a special thanks to those who are serving overseas.
Whether your spouse is deployed or you've settled into yet another base, the holidays just aren't the same without the people and the communities that make this holiday special. We are so grateful for your service.
As we give thanks for what we have, we also keep in our hearts those who we lost and those who have lost so much, and those who have an empty seat at their kitchen table or their dining room table this year because of this virus or another cruel twist of fate or accident. We pray for them.
A fire at a coal mine in Siberia, Russia, killed 52 people and injured more than 40 others. Around 285 people were in the mine at the time of the accident. Of those, 49 were taken to hospital with injuries. Officials said some of the injured have smoke poisoning and 4 are said to be in critical condition. Some of the rescue workers are among the fatalities. Russia's privately owned news agency says the oxygen supply of some of the search party had run out. Mission Aviation Fellowship is partnering with the World Health Mission Aviation Fellowship is partnering with the World Health Organization and local health authorities to fight the spread of the coronavirus across low-income countries. To date, the Christian Humanitarian Agency has made over 135 flights carrying over 21 tons of vaccine and medical equipment.
Christian charity Mission Aviation Fellowship, the world's largest humanitarian airline, continues to transport vital COVID vaccines and medical equipment to low-income countries in the most isolated regions across the world. Recently, MAF pilot Lung Pinglak Domta flew around 2,000 doses of the AstraZeneca to Ukusi, a special administrative enclave of Timor-Leste, inside neighbouring Timor, a separate Indonesian country on the eastern half of the island.
We got a request for a vaccine flight to Ukusi today, so here is our team weighing that vaccine, and we are loading onto the aircraft.
During coronavirus travel restrictions, the people of Ukusi were cut off from the mainland, but MAF was given special permission from the government to fly essential cargo, including COVID-19 vaccines, testing kits and hand-washing equipment to these 68,000 people stranded there. And MAF will continue to do all they can to provide practical and spiritual help to the most vulnerable people in the hardest-to-reach regions on the planet. Peter Wooding for the Global News Alliance.
Go Mission Aviation Fellowship, great work. It was so nice to see and feel those plus temperatures in the city again, and the warmer weather will be sticking around for some time. Complete weather details are on deck. You know, the bad part of the Chinook winds is that it'll rattle the windows and wind chimes, making it tougher to sleep at night. But the good news is we can enjoy much warmer temperatures. Jeanette Rocher is here with a full look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, we may even see double-digit temperatures on the weekend.
Yeah, we already reached double-digit temperatures today, and I was going to mention also another downfall with the Chinook winds is it does cause a lot of us some terrible headaches with that change in the barometric pressure. I know I've suffered from them all week, and of course, speaking of wind, we are going to continue to see those 90K gusts into this evening, another 70-kilometer-per-hour gusts tomorrow. But tomorrow is Friday, sunshine, 10 degrees the high. Into Saturday, we're looking at a high of 17. Sunday, 16 degrees. That could be a record-breaking day because our record was just over 15 degrees. So we'll have to wait and see if we break a record there on Sunday. Monday, mix of sun and cloud, 5 degrees the high, 14 the high for Tuesday, and a high of 15 for next Wednesday. So we are certainly well above the average high for this time of year. So seasonal is 2 degrees, average low -9. 16 was where we were at on this day back in 1939. Back in 1985, we were at a chilly -28. Sunrise this morning was just before 8 a.m., 7:59 a.m. This afternoon, we're looking at a sunset of 4:38 p.m. So daylight is actually 3 minutes shorter than it was yesterday. As we look to the national forecast for tomorrow, the West Coast is still expecting some rain this evening and into tomorrow for Victoria, 11 degrees the high. Vancouver still under a rainfall warning for this evening. More rain tomorrow morning as well, 8 degrees the high there. Now, Edmonton could see a 30% chance of showers or flurries tomorrow, 5 degrees the high. And Calgary, sunshine and 9 degrees, only 20 wind there. So they're not getting quite the wind that we are here in Lethbridge. Saskatoon's high tomorrow, 5 degrees, mix of sun and cloud. Regina looking at sunshine and 7 degrees. -3 is the expected high tomorrow in Winnipeg with a mix of sun and cloud. And most of those cities not getting too much wind either. As we look to the central part of the country, we're seeing a chance of snow tomorrow. Flurries expected in Toronto, high of 0. Ottawa looking at a mix of flurries and showers, 3 degrees the high. Same thing for Montreal with a high of 1 degree. Could see some showers mixed with some flurries there as well. Fredericton's high, 4 degrees tomorrow, looking at flurries and showers there as well. Halifax, showers tomorrow, 7 degrees the high. Looking at 5 to 10 millimeters of rain tomorrow in Charlottetown with a high of 8 degrees, 10 degrees the high in St. John's, Newfoundland, looking at some showers there happening as well. So there you go. There is your forecast.
It appears as though Alberta's oil patch is flush with cash again as there's a campaign to lure workers from the Maritimes in eastern Canada. The Canadian Association of Energy Contractors says it is expecting to drill close to 6,500 oil and gas wells next year. That is more than a 25% increase from this year. Global prices for natural oil and gas are higher than they've been since 2014, which was the last boom year for Alberta. While drilling activity is not expected to reach 2014 levels, strong commodity prices combined with progress on export capacity means the industry is feeling optimistic for the first time in a number of years. A number of new surveys suggest Canadians are feeling upbeat heading into the Christmas holidays. The polls indicate the return of celebrations, robust savings, and low unemployment are expected to bolster consumer confidence and spending ahead of the busiest shopping season of the year. The surveys by Accenture and Deloitte both indicate that Canadians intend to spend more this holiday season than they did last year. Another poll found that shoppers are also expected to make a big return to malls along with other brick-and-mortar stores. The C.D. Howe Institute says the Bank of Canada should issue a digital currency that can be converted into cash. The think tank says crypto assets offer a promise of gains in the efficiency and safety with which Canadians pay for things and invest their savings. It says Canadian dollar-linked stablecoins could become attractive if they're convertible into cash issued by the Bank of Canada. A stablecoin is a cryptocurrency that is linked to an underlying asset such as a fiat currency. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 64 points to 21,613. The Dow was down 9 points to 35,804. The S&P 500 was up 10 to 4701, and the Nasdaq was up 70 to 15,843. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down 36 cents to 78.03 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 5 cents to 5.12 US. Gold was down a cent to 17.8885 US an ounce, and silver was up 5 cents to 23.60 US an ounce. Wheat is at $12.76 per bushel, barley's at $9.75, canola's at $23.45, and corn is at $10.80 per bushel. Live cattle were up $2.50 to $137.90, feeder cattle were up $2.55 to $166.93, and lean hogs were up $1.28 to $75.43. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 79.04 US. Recapping one of our top stories, Environment Canada issued rainfall warnings for many parts of British Columbia still submerged by floodwaters. Areas of Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley could be prepared for up to 80 millimeters of rain by Friday morning. Forecasters say the storm is less intense than the one almost 2 weeks ago, but warns the rain could cause more flash flooding. It has been quite the transition from City Councillor to Mayor for Blaine Higgin. Coming up, a one-on-one interview with the new Lethbridge Mayor Higgin, who discusses some of his biggest challenges and his vision for our city moving forward. The new Lethbridge Mayor has been on the job for just over a month now. It's been an extremely busy time for Mayor Blaine Higgin, and we're pleased to be joined by Mayor Blaine Higgin now via Zoom. Mayor Higgin, How has it been so far settling into the mayoral's chair? Has it been a steep learning curve going from city councillor to Lethbridge mayor?
Yes, it definitely has. There's, it's 5 weeks into this job here, and of course, where it's like drinking from a fire hose. I tell most people, to kind of give an idea what that's like. But it's been really, really good. We've had orientation for a majority of this time, as well as we've had strategic planning. So it's great to be able to sit down with my colleagues and look at some of the different plans we have for the future of Lethbridge. And then it wrapped up last week here. A lot of our planning here with our AUMA meetings in Edmonton, so Alberta municipality meetings in Edmonton. So yeah, it's been a really busy time, but I think I'm seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. I just hope it's not a train, Hal.
So Mayor Kagan, how has your experience as a councillor really helped you in your new role as mayor?
That's a really good question, Hal, and I think it's been the experience. We were able to, I know I was able to, as well as many of these councillors that were re-elected, be able to hit the ground running right from day one. Having the knowledge of what's happened in the past, some of the decisions going forward. So I think experience was a very big part that's helping me through this transition to becoming mayor.
Yeah, because I remember the last municipal election, people who never sat on council were getting right for the mayoral chair. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if I wanted to run as mayor, I want to be a councillor first, serve a couple of terms, see how things go, how things operate within the city council before I consider running as mayor. Wouldn't you think that would be a better route to go?
Absolutely. I think having that experience on council, to me anyways, is quite important. I couldn't imagine coming into this role without having some previous years on council.
Now, you recently met with Calgary Mayor Jody Gondek, who's also new to her job. How important are those collaborations between Alberta cities?
They're extremely important. We've got Calgary and Edmonton being the two metro areas of Alberta, but the mid-city mayors and a group that I belong to, still represents over 1.2 million in population and about 35 MLAs, and so we've got a strong voice as well. But working with Calgary and Edmonton and the mayors there, it's extremely important going forward. And we had, as I'd mentioned, I had posted on social media, a great meeting ahead with Mayor Gondek, and it was really fantastic. I look forward to working together with her and also with Mayor Sohi in Edmonton.
Now, you were in Edmonton recently, meeting with a number of ministers, including a discussion on affordable housing with Seniors and Housing Minister Josephine Pon. What's the plan to help with affordable housing here in our city? How are you going to work with the province?
It's that collaboration which is extremely important. Working together with the province. I know we've had an announcement made here, and it's been a few years that we've wanted to have this permanent supportive housing, for example, that was coming to our community. And it's something that I know we really have to keep that fire hot and make sure that the province is working through this. And I know with COVID, it's been difficult. We've had a project has been rescoped for a 42-bed unit. And so we're just hoping to work through that process and get that done sooner than later. And from the discussions that I had in Edmonton, that is happening currently. So let's just make sure we keep that rolling forward.
Absolutely. Now, you also met with the Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Mike Ellis, and Social Services Minister Jason Lewan. Mayor Higgin, what kind of supports are being offered to help our city with the ongoing opioid crisis? Again, how are you working with the province in that regard?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's one of the main things that I wanted to make sure that was discussed when I was in Edmonton. And the meeting with those two ministers was very valuable in that we got an update on the 50-bed treatment facility that's going to be going out just on the outskirts of town here, as well as some possible projects for the continuum of care for these individuals to help those struggling with addiction, to get them into the services that they need, and so they can get back into a society and running a life that that we all want to make sure that is shared by all, for sure. And so I think that again, the treatment facilities are a great start to that, and we need to look at the intox and detox, and so it's the whole continuum of care, for sure.
Yeah, many pillars to be able to help people get the help that they need. Now, Mayor Higgin, crime has also been a serious issue here in our city. Many people believe that the opioid crisis is tied in with some of the crime. Have you had a chance to sit down with Police Chief Shaheen Adizadeh and maybe talk about a plan to tackle crime here in our city? I mean, you also used to sit on the police commission as well, correct?
Definitely. And something, and being of this an arm's length, the police commission, it's something that, the police force, the police service is an arm's length. directly connecting up with the chief is something we don't generally do. We do that through the police commission, and the police commission takes those the concerns of council forward to the chief. Not saying that I don't sit down and we have the chat with our police chief, because that's important as well to have that relationship. But we've brought a lot of different ideas and thoughts, and throughout this process of the strategic planning that our council has done, we're going to be able to bring more to the police commission so that they can pass that information on to our chief. So we'll end up with a safer community for all.
Now, during the last municipal election, you also talked about putting more money back into the police budget, including around $1 million that was taken out originally. Where do we stand with that?
It's something that I brought forward right away to our strategic planning session, as far as making sure that we have adequate funds for the resources that we need in our throughout our police service. And so it's something that we'll be hearing more of here in the not too distant future as we work through that. But definitely it's something that I heard on the campaign trail, and it's something that I definitely want to bring forward to give the adequate resources that we need to create a safe environment for all of us here in Lethbridge.
Now, when you were up in Edmonton as well, Mayor Hagan, you also had a chance to chat with the Minister of Children's Services, Rebecca Schultz, and you talked a bit about the $10 a day daycare that the province recently signed up for with the feds. How do you think this recent announcement will really help families here in our city?
Well, we know that a lot of times, I know when I had to go through this here years ago when I had young children, and the struggle at that time for me, and I know it's shared by many, is, we were spending more money or similar amount of money for daycare than what sometimes we took home as working in the community. So it was really difficult to be able to really get ahead. And so this will definitely help families be able to be more sustainable and be able to have a two-parent system that usually happens quite often, or single parents for that matter, to be able to get them into the workforce and be able to have that childcare for a reasonable rate. So I think it's extremely important, and it's a great announcement.
Now, you're getting ready to strap on the goalie pads for the Mayor's Community Hockey Challenge, set for December 18th at the ATB Centre. Now, this is what, a fundraiser for our food banks?
Yes, absolutely. We actually, back in 2014 and 2015, I ran a Christmas Hope Hockey Challenge, which was went towards the food banks, and it was a great success at that time. We were just want to reinvent that, bring that back again, and call this the Mayor's Hockey Challenge, and we're really looking forward to that and supporting those local food banks.
How much are you hoping to raise? Is there a goal in mind? Kind of a rough goal?
We don't actually have a goal in mind, and I know I've been asked that a few times, but it's just we want to do the best that we can. And there's some different ideas that we have. We may have a 50-50 as well there, and some other things to just try to generate, the additional funds that are needed by these organizations. Because how we understand quite often that when we have cash, when these organizations receive cash, they can really turn that into, more food than just us supplying those groceries from purchasing them ourselves and bringing them in. So they do leverage those funds and can usually come up with more groceries in the end. So I think that's important. Also, that we realize that there's cash donations will be accepted as well.
Yeah, definitely a great cause with this fundraiser, the Mayor's Community Hockey Challenge. But let me ask you something. As a goaltender, how good is your double pad stack?
That's going back real old school, right? The double pad stack. You know what? I try to get out a couple times a week to play hockey, Hal, and I really enjoy it. I like the health and wellness aspect of that. And I know in chatting earlier, I'm hoping that we can continue this throughout the year with other functions too. If it's a Christmas a Mayor's Art Challenge, a Mayor's baseball challenge, softball challenge, something to just get the community involved and be able to have the beneficiaries, those food banks or other organizations. So I'm really looking forward to what this is going to, really morph into, if you will.
If you do end up having that slow pitch challenge, please give us a call here at Bridge City News. We'll definitely put a team together because we're more cleats than skates here at Bridge City News. You don't want to see me on blades. It's not a pretty sight whatsoever. Now, there's been a doctor shortage here in our city for quite some time. I know my own doctor left for the Netherlands. We don't have a family doctor anymore. Many people no longer have that family physician. How are you working with the province to address that issue and attract more doctors here to our city?
Yeah, understanding absolutely, and you'd mentioned that how we working with the province, because it is definitely a provincial a matter, but still we want to make sure that our community is accepting and that we're retaining, not just going out and recruiting doctors, but that we're retaining doctors. So that's by doing many different things. It's a community that people want to move to, and I know that we've had concerns out there with some of the different crime that is there. And so, of course, when individuals go to those that are graduating from medical school, we'll do a search. It's the first thing you do. You put in a Google search for Lethbridge, and unfortunately, there's a few things that come up that I'm not really proud about. But our community is amazing, and those doctors that do move here love it. We've been able to retain majority. Now, understanding that there's retirements out there and there's other reasons that doctors leave, but we need to work with the provincial government on this. And throughout the campaign, it's something that I've really heard a lot about. And so I'm looking at a mayor's task force to deal with this as well. So we'll be dealing with the provincial government. We're meeting with the minister here in a couple of weeks as well. We'll be coming down and we'll be chatting with him as well on what we can do to strategize and try to help that process going forward.
Attracting physicians here to Southwestern Alberta and Lethbridge is very important. But tell me about your vision, Mayor Hagan, about attracting more investment to our city to really help diversify our economy.
I think the biggest thing with that, Hal, is being mayor and when I was on council as well, the ideas that come forward need to be fleshed out, of course, with those experts. And so the experts that I find with investment opportunities here is Economic Development Lethbridge and the Chamber of Commerce, working hand in hand with these organizations that have done amazing work for our community. I wish I knew I had the answers to everything, but I'm so glad that we have these organizations that we can tap into and find out from them what they've heard. And also, of course, if there's business that are reaching out to me directly, I'll make sure that we put them in touch with those experts and we can get this our economy boosting here in Lethbridge, and I'm sure it's and the area for that matter. So it's a very regional thing down here. So looking forward to that.
Now let's talk about some of the new renovations at the airport, which the city took over from the county. How's that coming along?
It's coming along great. As you've noticed throughout this pandemic, it's been a little bit of a struggle to get air traffic throughout our airport, but it is getting better. The renovations are close to completion, which is fantastic. And the best part about that, Hal, honestly, is that we were able to put in $2.6 million, and we leveraged that fund in order to get $23 million back from provincial and federal grants. And so that's just over 10 cents on the dollar. So that's fantastic to be able to leverage those monies to come up with that $23 million for those renovations.
Now that the new council has settled in, some of the dust is cleared, can we count on you to continue with a 0% tax increase for 2022?
Absolutely. We've got that 2020. We see that in 20 years, we had a 1.82% municipal tax increase, which was the lowest in 20 years. And so for 2020, then we adapted a 0% tax increase for 2021 and 2022. And remember something, this is the municipal portion. So some people will say that, my taxes went up, but understand that this is just a municipal portion that sits at zero. So there could be other things like if your assessed value on your home goes up or increase to maybe Green Acres Foundation or to the Alberta school budget. So this may change it. So I know sometimes people say, well, gosh, citizens will say my taxes went up. The municipal portion is all that we can control. And that's something that we want to keep down at that 0%. And we've got that set currently. So I think that's fantastic.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I noticed that with my own home, it's a blessing because you build more equity, the value went up, but at the same time, my property taxes also went up too. So thank you so much for clarifying. Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Hagan, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Hal. Always a pleasure to chat.
Well, many of you have likely heard about the Whistle Stop Cafe and Truck Stop in Mirror, Alberta, after Alberta Health Services and the RCMP closed it down for violating COVID restrictions. The owner of the cafe, Christopher Scott, was recently fined $20,000 for violating a court order by holding an anti-shutdown rally back in May. Chris joins us now to share his side of the story. Welcome to Bridge City News. Chris, can you share a little bit about this backstory? What what was the rally all about? What were you hoping to accomplish with it?
Honestly, I didn't realize how much of a impact that was going to have on the province and the country. It was a matter of survival at first. So we knew there was something fishy going on. We knew that what was happening to our business and other businesses and the population in general wasn't right. And we just made a decision to exercise some civil disobedience in order to maybe make the government pay attention to, hey, there's those of us out there that we don't agree with what you're doing, and we're not going to let you trample on our charter rights.
Okay, so what is your main concern with the government COVID restrictions?
Oh man, where do I start? I guess my primary concern is the government playing politics with medicine. Anytime that's happened in history, it's been a disaster. And I'm old enough to have seen a little bit of this, growing up. Anytime the government tells us they need to do something to keep us safe, and they push and they push and they push with advertising and agenda, it generally hasn't been a good thing historically. So there's some issues at play here. So number one, we're supposed to be constitutionally protected. We're supposed to have protected rights and freedoms under the charter. And what I've seen over the last year and a half is that, unfortunately, our government has, and this is all over Canada, this isn't just Alberta, they've actually enacted laws that do more to protect the government and protect their interests than protect us citizens. And it's quite apparent now where they can go in and they can interrupt church services, they can close down restaurants, they can tell you who you can and can't have in your home, they can tell you what businesses you can go to. The amount of power that we've given up to those who are supposed to represent us is almost unbelievable. So there's a lot of different things at play here. So there's the charter violations that are happening all over the place. There's the judicial system that's allowing it, and they're abdicating the law. They're ignoring or overriding laws in their never-ending crusade against COVID without justifying that what they're doing is either effective or necessary. Now we have the government playing politics in medicine. Governmental organizations, corporations like Alberta Health Services, they're being allowed to control a narrative and interfere with the relationship between us and our doctors. And that's never really been done before. The main thing right now is both the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta and the College of Pharmacists. They have this hate against anything that goes against the drug companies' narrative of vaccinate our way out of this. They've told doctors they can't prescribe certain medications that we're using in other countries effectively. Alberta Health Services has actually forced their employees to sign non-disclosure agreements in order to prevent investigation of their pushback against those mandates.
All right. So I just wanted to jump in here for a second, Chris, regarding the fine that you received for $20,000 for violating a court order by holding an anti-shutdown rally back in May. So the judge in this case was going to sentence you to 21 days in jail, but instead he didn't want to give you martyr status. Instead, he fined you the 20 grand. So is something like this going to stop you from speaking your mind? It doesn't sound like it, but are like-minded people, are there people like you who are helping you raise money to pay these fines?
Yeah, there's a huge group of like-minded people. So I don't know if you saw yesterday, but we launched our organization, WS Full Steam Ahead. And it's basically a group of like-minded individuals that want to push back against this in an organized manner so we can actually make some real change. In the couple weeks before our formal launch, we gathered 500 and some odd members. Last night, we got another, I think, 1,500 members. So already there's 2,000 people within this organization that are going to do whatever they can, offer to volunteer, do research, help lobby, whatever they can do in order to push back against this. So a $20,000 fine plus $10,000 in costs, it doesn't even cross my mind. Like, I'm not concerned about that. We're appealing that, of course. And it's very ironic that Justice Germain, he said he didn't want to make me or the Pulowskis martyrs. But instead, he did something that kind of martyred us more. We have a compelled speech part of our sentence. What kind of government or judicial system gives you a compelled speech sentence? Like, nobody is going to tell me what to say or what not to say. Nobody is going to threaten me with financial stuff because I've had money before. I've been broke before. I really don't care. At the end of the day, it's about if you're gonna do what you know is right, you better be prepared to take some lumps. And if you do what you know is right, why would you worry about any of that other stuff? Like, really, $30,000. A couple hours after my sentencing, somebody started a GoFundMe to help us out, and I think that GoFundMe raised like $30,000 in a couple days, and that's three ways between me and Arthur and David Pulowski. But that just goes to show that people are willing to step up and get behind people that are sticking their necks out. And the same goes for the doctors and the nurses that are speaking out and they're getting fired. Like, they're losing a lot more than I could ever lose. Could you imagine going to medical school, spending, 7 years doing an internship, basically offering your service to people to keep them healthy for your whole career, and then being told that you're going to get fired because you don't buy into a mandate? Like, those people are losing a lot, and the communities are willing to support them too.
Right. Now, Chris, you had mentioned compelled speech before. So that would be that the judge has ordered you to verbally share a disclaimer every time you express your opinions publicly, right? So what exactly are you required to say?
I haven't memorized it. Usually I read off a script, but it goes something like this. The views and opinions that I express are contrary to the Alberta government and Alberta Health Services and the College of Physicians. Vaccines are a safe, effective, and proven way of dealing with COVID-19. And I can't even remember the rest of it. But they're basically asking me to say, what I'm going to tell you isn't right according to the government. That's what they want me to say.
Exactly. That's interesting. So, I mean, essentially, the judge is compelling you to say something that you don't believe in, that you don't believe to be true. So I'm not a lawyer, but that order seems to contravene your charter rights to freely speak your mind.
Well, in Canada, we don't actually have the freedom of speech. We have the freedom of expression. I can express myself however I see fit. And mind you, sometimes we express ourselves and there's going to be some consequences, but we're free to do so. In this case, what they're asking me to do is denounce my opinions before I give them. It's different than them telling me I have to say, they're not really telling me I have to say that vaccines work or this vaccine works. They're telling me that I have to say the government believes that this is the only way out of this. They're making me speak on behalf of the government. And I'm sure you're aware this has happened before in Alberta, and it went to the Supreme Court and it got overruled. We had a time when there was a law that said journalists had to print the government's rebuttal alongside anything that the media said against them. And that, I mean, it was complete garbage. It was struck down almost immediately. And now we're doing it again. So when I look at a judge who doesn't learn from history, like, part of making the ruling, he talks about other cases and case law and all sorts of research he does. But how something like this is missed, it leads me to question the validity of anything that some of these judges say.
So what happens if you don't voice that disclaimer? Can they put you in jail?
I think so. I think if I breach any of the sentence, the sentencing things, they could probably put me in jail because I'm on probation for 18 months. So if I don't act like a good little subject and toe the line, then yeah, I guess they could put me in jail.
Okay. I know you have a lot of supporters of like-minded people, but what about the response from the public in your area where you live? Are they supportive? Are they wanting to see you shut down?
There's, I would say it's split like 60-40. There's 60% maybe support and 40% that don't. And then there's the 5% that actually tell me they want me to choke and die on my own food, right?
Right. Like, so there are many who say that you're reckless, that you're endangering public safety by staying open and not requiring customers to follow COVID restrictions. So how do you respond to that?
I get asked that a lot. So on the reckless side of it, it has never been the government's job to keep us safe. Their job is to provide us the tools and resources we need to keep ourselves safe, to give us the education we need to make decisions on what we're going to do with our own lives. Me having my cafe open and allowing somebody else to come there and potentially get sick, which nobody has so far as I know. And I've shaken probably 10 or 15,000 hands in the last 18 months, and we've never been sick. So there's a difference between being reckless and doing something that you know is going to cause harm. Justice Germain, he compared me to a drunk driver. Now, statistically, driving drunk, there is a high probability that you're going to injure yourself or another person. There's no question to that. And we have laws to prevent impaired driving, and we shouldn't have a problem with that. What we should have a problem with is when the government says, you have to shut down your life or your business, effectively destroying your livelihood, because there's a slim chance somebody may choose to come to your establishment of their own free will and possibly get sick. That's a completely different thing. And in law, the original single law was do no harm. Right? Nobody's ever proven that I've harmed anybody. What we have proven, though, and what we are going to prove in court, is that the mandates, the vaccine, the restrictions, the interference in doctor-patient relationship, all of those things are extremely reckless on behalf on the part of the government and the organizations associated with them. Those reckless actions, they have caused people to die. They've ruined lives. They've ruined businesses. The destruction is actually tangible. If you look at the statistics over what's going on in Alberta in regards to businesses lost, revenue lost, lives lost through suicide, mental health impacts, it's so ironic that people, they say to me that, oh, you're being reckless by opening your business. We didn't say that to people during SARS or H1N1. Not once did they ever say that to any business that stayed open. We were told, hey, you might get sick if you go out. Make that choice yourself, but try and protect yourself. Do what you can to keep yourself safe. Nobody ever talks about keeping ourselves healthy. I mean, there's so much evidence and science that tells us in Canada, it's super important. When kids go back to school, we need to make sure our immune systems are prepared, because that's when we start to get sick. The government's never done a propaganda piece or used the media to say, hey, take your vitamins so that you can keep your immune system healthy, because you will be exposed to a certain virus. We have never seen that, yet it works. There's evidence, there's science behind it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, Chris, you had mentioned before that you've launched a lawsuit against the Alberta government and AHS. So do you think that you have a real chance of winning against such a formidable opponent? What exactly are they being sued for?
Well, first off, I want to say that if I based my decisions on whether or not I'm going to win or lose, I probably would be hiding in my basement. Not once during this whole thing have I ever used winning or losing as a reason to do what I'm doing. I do what I'm doing because it's the right thing to do. And if I lose, it doesn't matter to me because I'm doing what's right. If I win, that's great because I want to hold these people accountable. Yeah, it's not about winning or losing. So, yeah, and I don't know. People seem to think that the courts they're more for the government, they're for the crown, they're to protect their interests, and I'm tending to agree, just with what I've seen. But regardless, we are suing the Alberta government, Dina Hinshaw, and Alberta Health Services, and what we're suing them for is interfering in our right to peacefully assemble for political purposes. So we are going to try. We may fail, but that's not the point. The point is that if we don't stand up and try, then what's the point?
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us today, Chris. Appreciate your thoughts there. Christopher Scott is the owner of the Whistle Stop Cafe and Truck Stop in Mirror, Alberta. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.